I'm Al Kresta, and I thank you for joining me. In studio with me right now is Okan. He's from Istanbul, in Turkey, married with a son. He's a tour guide that's been working with Steve Ray for 15 years, and I've never met Okan before. He came in studio today. We got to talking, and Steve pointed out that he has just come into full communion with the Catholic Church, and I thought, well, I had him in studio before he runs back to Turkey. I'd try to get get a little bit of the story down here. Well, it's wonderful to meet you.
It's wonderful to meet you, Al, too. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this chance. I mean, I wasn't expecting this.
Neither was I.
It was a surprise for me, and first time for me to be in the radio. It looks great. It's just fun, and it's always great with Steve and meeting with Steve's friends, who are always wonderful people. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Well, talk to me a little bit about your spiritual upbringing. You were raised in a Muslim country.
Yes.
But
yes.
Were you...
actually...
In terms of your personal commitments.
My personal commitments, I mean, we, as a family, we've been always coming. I'm come from a very modern family. So from the time I was born, our community was a modern community. Mm-hmm. Although, of course, everybody says they're Muslim. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know. Even you practice, you don't practice, everybody's Muslim.
Everybody's Muslim,
yeah. But in my own family, in our core family, of course, they would say they're Muslims, but they never practiced it. I never practiced it. And somehow, of course, in years' time, maybe being a tour guide, you know, and working with Americans for long years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been doing this for like 25 years so far. And actually, meeting Steve in this last 15 years kind of made me look up things in a different way. And slowly, every time I meet Steve and talking to him, meeting his friends, actually, of course, we used to do biblical tours, and Steve does, you know, biblical tours to all over.
Sure.
The Holy Land, and Turkey is the second Holy Land, so I mean, we do have lots of groups going through. I mean, Christian groups going through. So we used to, and I personally used to lead a lot of them, and I happened to meet a lot of great friends within all these, you know, travelers, and of course, being together with them, I had the chance to. Be in the church, you know, join the mass, join the prayers with them. And one thing just, you know, slowly actually like something was getting into me. I don't know. And but I always had a sympathy, I have to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it was because I used to see always good people around me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember at all any Christian friend, I would say, that I saw harm from. And it's like in the world of today, with the radicals and so on. Of course, it grabs you. You know, it just grabs you more because you want peace, you want love, you want friendship. You know, these should be everything about religions, and that's what I found in Christianity. Although, of course, there's a little bit more to it.
Yes.
I would just have to mention.
And we'll talk a little bit about that. But I was curious to ask, where you are in Turkey, how big is this radical Islamist jihadist threat?
To be honest, in Istanbul, there's no threat like that.
No threat.
I mean, there's a little misunderstanding. I don't want to go into the politics side of it, but if you want to hear from a direct Turkish person who's living in that society, I can comfortably say that we are fighting for it, because there's quite a big misunderstanding through some popular media.
Yes.
Popular media would be, I think, a word that really makes it a bit fearful for people.
Yes.
But you know, we have borders with Syria.
Yes.
But even this summer, we were in right by 5 miles away of the ISIS area in Syria with Steve Ray, and we had footage of his last video about Abraham.
Yes, that's right.
We comfortably had great fun.
Yes.
And I cannot say there's a threat of radical jihadists, but what I can say, of course, for people like us, I just feel more and more religious. It's not there clearly, you know what I mean? You cannot hold it, but I can see that psychologically. I feel that pressure. Maybe it's the political, you know, politically it's more up on the rise. Yeah. I feel that pressure of psychological pressure of like of the Islamist movement. Let's
Yes.
put that.
Okay.
But this is two different things. It's not like radical terrorist like
Right.
movement.
Yes.
It's just neighborhood pressure kind of.
That's
movement.
right.
All besides that, it's very safe in Turkey.
Now, you met many Christians over the years because of your work
Yes.
as a tour guide,
Yes, I did.
and you were favorably impressed by them because they showed you
Great
friendship,
respect,
and affection,
friendship, love,
yeah.
everything.
Um,
No pressure.
no
By the
pressure
way.
either. That's another thing to point out.
I mean,
yeah.
see, that's. I mean, I have to be clear about that. I mean, there has been no one that told me, you know, you should follow this right,
Yeah.
or you should follow this church, or you should, you know, follow this faith. It's just, I mean, but we always talked, but there hasn't been at all, not even one time, somebody coming up to me. And I mean, when I say somebody, I mean people who are directly religious people. Many times, like we happen to meet priests, bishops.
Hmm.
I mean, Steve is a great Catholic.
Yeah.
He's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
But not even one day Steve came to me and said that you should do this, you should
Yeah.
do that.
Put pressure on you.
No, not zero.
How does it? Now, here you are in the United States.
Yeah.
You were just received, I understand, at St. John the Baptist.
Yes, I did.
In Ypsilanti.
It's-
And you're flying back to Turkey later today.
No, yeah,
Is that so? Soon, okay.
soon, in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were going to be in town that long. But why now? Why did you finally decide it was, it was time to take that step?
I mean, of course, see, one thing is, I had the sympathy, I could feel it, but on the other hand, of course, there's not much, we do have churches. I mean, you can walk in and out of the churches.
Yes, in
and see the
Turkey.
Yes,
Mhm.
I mean, it's open. But on the other hand,
It's not Saudi Arabia.
No. It's. I mean, people should know that. I mean, Turkey is
Right.
not like any other. All the others are Arabic countries. We're not Arab.
That's right.
So there's a huge difference
Yeah.
between that. And people are surprised when they come to Istanbul because they see New York City life,
Mhm.
and it's free for everybody. It's of course smaller areas. Eastern part maybe might be a bit more conservative, but not the cities.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's not every corner. I mean, so it's not easy for you to get the teach of Christianity, you know.
Yes.
And of course, it may not be comfortable either. We know that. I mean, especially if you say you are born in a Muslim society and say that you convert into Christianity, you better watch that. You don't know because they're radicals.
Yeah.
There
Does
can be
anybody know
radicals.
yet that you?
My wife, my parents,
Okay.
my
So they know.
neighborhood, of course,
Okay.
of course. And I didn't ask them, you know, should I do, because this is something about myself.
Right.
But I just told them. And actually my wife she was very supportive.
Good.
And she wanted to get every minute of today from me.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a big surprise. I mean, she doesn't even know this. But one thing about why now?
Yeah.
Of course, radicalism in the world on Islamic faith, unfortunately, even if you have a little thing in there, it puts you away from that. That's one thing. But it has nothing to do with me. Why Christianity? It was this, I think, past couple of months ago, Steve Ray was in Istanbul again.
Mhm.
He was on one of his pilgrimage cruises.
Mhm.
So, of course, whenever Steve is in Istanbul, in Turkey, I'm right there.
Mhm.
I also work with him. I help all his ground operations and so on. And also, he's a good friend of mine, so I have to go and hug him and just see him one time. And this time, actually, by the way, I have a son, 4.5 years old, and his name is Aaron. When he was born, and only he was a couple of months, again, we were together with Steve. And at the Mass in Istanbul, in St. Esprit Church, which is a very important church because Pope stayed there. I mean, not the last Pope, I don't mean in 1960s. And so I asked them if they could bless my son. It was a big time. It was a very moving time for me because there were 180, 200, pilgrims with Steve Ray,
Yes.
and all good people, and several priests, and I think, I can't remember, there was a bishop, maybe at least several priests. And so I mean, I just walked to the altar with my son in the cradle. on the what do you call it, the stroller,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a great moment that all the priest says, "Bless my son," and my son doesn't have an Islamic ID either because I refused to have that. Not like years before this. Right now, my decision, because I don't want anyone to pressure without asking me.
Yes. Yes.
And that was a small incident when I was getting my son's ID. You know, you go with the birth of certificate.
They wanted to put Muslim on there.
Well, they didn't even ask me. The guy just prints out the material, and then he just gives out a copy of it, and I can read it.
You have to tell them.
And I sign it, so he puts the ID up, and I see the Islam there. I said, "Did you ask me?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, how do you know he's a Muslim?" And he says, "Isn't he?" And of course, it's quite stunned. And I say, "Well, he's just a baby. I couldn't ask him." And he was not happy with this answer, of course. And I told him kindly to print it out without it.
Mm.
And he did it because, you know, it's a democracy, he has to do it. But it didn't feel a great joy for him to do it that way. And then, again, this couple of months ago, Steve, I was in Istanbul. They were in St. Esprit Church again with at least 120 pilgrims together. So I kindly asked him, and the bishop.
This is Bishop Conley?
Yes, Bishop Conley was there. And he was kind enough to bless me. And all the priests was around me. And actually, when he was putting the cross on me, and I just felt something. It just went from my feet up to my head.
Really? A sensation?
I honest to God, I felt it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I just
I'll
felt
venture a guess
an energy.
and say you know, the Spirit of God.
It's okay. Okay. That's. I mean, at that moment, you know, it just some energy goes through you.
Yes.
It's a feel.
Yeah.
And then Steve Ray came up to me and says, "You know what? You're blessed now. You will be a Christian before you know it."
Is that what he said?
This was his exact words. And I was gonna travel. I'm in travel business, so I was gonna travel to U.S. And of course, when I come to U.S., I was in New York City, and I said, "Steve, I want to come up because I know Steve's friends, John Hale, and, you know."
Yes, sure.
Corporate.
Corporate
And
travel,
so
yeah.
we've been working together for so many years, but always through the email. Although I met John before he came to Turkey to one of our trips, but so many years I haven't seen any of his, you know, associates. But we know each other by name.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a great chance for me to fly up here.
Yeah.
And I escaped. You know what? There's miracles of God, I'm telling you. I think my plane is probably the last plane, or one of the last flew out of New York.
Yeah.
And we had a plan yesterday together in the office. So I said, you know, to Steve, when I was before the trip started, I sent an email to him. I said, "You know what? I feel it. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now." Why now? Because he's the one who introduced me to this,
Yes.
you know, feeling to this, to the God's paths, as we should say maybe. And I said, if it's going to happen, it should happen with Steve around.
That's great.
And that's just a brief.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a wonderful story, and this is actually your first day as a Christian.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, because you were received this morning.
It feels good.
I'm glad to have met you today. I'm glad you were able to take the time.
I'm great, and on the way in, and this is just spontaneously happened because we were just driving to the bookstore, and Steve says, "You know, you should meet Al, and he's a great guy." And I said, and I think he was trying to reach you at that time, and I didn't know I was going to be in the radio.
Yeah.
It has been just, I don't know. It's nice to talk to you very much.
Well, it's wonderfully encouraging, and I hope we get a chance to spend some time together in the future.
I hope so too.
You know,
I hope so too. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Okan.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful meeting you.
Yeah, wonderful meeting you too. Thanks.
Okan Kuhan is from Istanbul. He just entered into full communion with the Catholic Church today, and one of the really fascinating story. I'm Al Kresta. More coming up.